It's official. Canada officially sucks. Not the people, not the land, but our policies and our government. In the latest sucky part of Sucky Canada, you have President-elect Donald Trump. I mean, hey, I like Trump. I can't blame him for doing something like this. But he's imposing a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. Mostly because our borders are not secure and we, Canada, are letting in a shit ton of really bad people, like people that behead others back in their homeland, people that are actual terrorists. Canada lets in terrorists. And then those terrorists say, well, why commit terrorism in Canada when you can go to America? And so we've had a lot of terrorists try and get through to America. Now, that's just one of the many, many different examples as to what's wrong with our borders. Now, Trump is obviously not happy with that, and he's obviously not happy with bad border policies since, he built a freaking wall around Mexico. Now, in his latest attack, he's saying, You better fix your borders or 25% tariffs, giving Trudeau 2 months. In this video, we're going to take a look at the breakdown of what those tariffs look like. We're going to take a look at Justin Trudeau's response. We're going to take a look at the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre's response. And then we're going to take a look at how all this came up in question period today. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it.
To me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. And it's my favorite word.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump used his favorite word to threaten a trade war. On his first day in office, Trump says he will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders.
It's not clear to me that Trump has an understanding of how the global economy works. But it's something that has to be taken very seriously.
Political science professor Max Cameron points out most of the trade between Canada and the U.S. happens within multinational corporations that have plants in both countries. So the move would also hurt American consumers.
Automobile parts made in Hermosillo, Mexico, get used in plants in Kentucky that build automobiles. The same with cars in Canada. If you're going to be imposing tariffs on everything that goes back and forth across the borders, you're going to raise the price on the things that you're selling to your own consumers as well as the Canadian consumers.
The Greater Vancouver Board of Trade says the federal government needs to act quickly on the threat.
This is really concerning and would have serious consequences for workers, for businesses, for families right across British Columbia and across Canada. Now is the time for the federal government to ensure we have a one Team Canada approach.
Trump goes on to say this tariff will remain in effect until such times as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. Premier David Eby tweeted, Trump's tariffs would hurt Canadians and Americans alike. Canadians must stand united and Ottawa must respond with strength. In response, Ottawa emphasized the close relationship between the two countries, pointing out last year, 60% of U.S. crude oil imports originated from Canada. Grace Key, Global News.
Canada is a power hitter. Canada has a lot that we provide for America, like a lot. In comparison to other countries, a tremendous amount, the most. And putting 25% tariffs on it, whether it's a blank statement, whether it's an empty threat, whether it's something that he's actually going to move forward with, even if it's going to hurt him. I mean, is Trump crazy enough to do that? Yeah, he is. And this is why I don't know. Well, I know for certain that Justin Trudeau, not the guy for this job. He needs to step down. He needs to get out of the way because he's going to ruin our economy just because they're going to get into a pissing contest. Trump does not like Trudeau, does not respect him. But you don't have to take my word on it. We got Vashi here to explain things a little bit more in depth.
CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapilas. Vashi, good evening. It's great to see you. 25% threat. How big a shock is that number to see?
It's huge. And I've been working the phones trying to figure out if people within the government and even in provincial governments are as startled as I think people like you and I are by the number itself. And for the most part, I think there is some shock. I think there had been some level of optimism that Canadian efforts thus far under the Team Canada umbrella would have resonated with people close enough to Trump that they would, there would be a greater understanding of the differences between Mexico and Canada in particular. And I think the value of Canadian exports to the U.S., and I'm in particular talking about oil, right? We supply so much of the U.S.'s own supply or intake of oil. So I think there had been a certain level of optimism that at the very worst, maybe there'd be a 10% tariff, but that energy exports from Canada would be exempt from that. There's nothing about this in what you just read. There is no such thing as an exemption. We are lumped in very closely with Mexico. And he is so specific about it that he's saying it's going to happen on day one through an executive order. I can't imagine him rolling that back at this point. So then the question becomes, what does the federal government do? What does Canada do? Do they hearken back to the first iteration of Trump and the threat of, or the imposition rather, of 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel and impose counter tariffs? What does that do to our economy? It's just a real, it's a shocker to the system, and I think to the economic system as well, potentially.
It sure is a shocker. Like you said, 25% is a number we weren't expecting to see anyway. But Vashi, the fact that this announcement on his social media comes with some conditions, there are caveats attached. He says until, for example, invasion of our country doesn't stop. He's talking about drugs need to stop. And all of this, as we know, has been in the discussion with this incoming administration. But all of this also takes a lot of time. It's not something that can actually happen with the stroke of a pen.
We've had 9 years, dipshit. We've had 9 years to try and do stuff. So yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. How many nights in 9 years? Hey Siri, what's 9 years in number of days? Like, come on. Are you kidding me? It doesn't happen overnight. Get real.
Well, and I think we'll need some, and we'll seek some, more specifics about what he means when he references issues at the border, right? There is a different set of issues at the Canadian border than there is at the southern border with Mexico. I think that we as Canadians, and particularly those in government, have been sort of reassured by the idea that if you just look at the volume of people or issues at the border, you're going to see that the volume at the southern border with Mexico far exceeds anything happened at the Canadian one. But we got some signals, to be fair, Akshay, since Donald Trump was elected, from the person that he chose to be his border czar, who very clearly said, I have worries about the northern border. I have worries about human smuggling, about the number of people who are kind of smuggled across from Canada into the United States. We have concerns about fentanyl. Like, they have raised these concerns, whether we believe they're fully substantiated or not. The signals were there. It's very interesting, and I'm glad you pointed out that they are being so inextricably tied to decisions on trade, right? He's worried about the border. Like, what exactly is Canada, going to be required to do in order to secure some kind of exemption from these tariffs? Or does he have his mind set on them?
He has his mind set on it, Vashi. He has his mind set on it. How about we do what's best and we stop rewarding criminals? We get rid of the drugs. We get rid of the crime. We start scrutinizing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers, 7 layers of security when you're bringing immigrants into this country. Make our passport great again. Make it difficult to be Canadian. Make it really difficult to even want to come and be a Canadian, potentially be a Canadian. Come on. Like, this is what happens. This is what happens when the woke radical left invades politics. Is when things go back to reality, which is what America is going through right now, back to reality, back to normalcy. We're stuck holding the bag. Come on, man.
And then we have to enter into what do we do in response, aka a counter tariff.
One other question before we move on, Vashi. The fact that in the past also we have seen Canada sort of responded to this when there was this trade war, I can call it, between the US and Canada when Trump was in White House. But the possibility of this, how much do you think this is just a threat? Because we know, as Donald Trump has said in the past, he wants to renegotiate NAFTA, and that's going to happen in 2026.
Well, I think we just don't have a choice about whether or not to guess. I think everyone has to operate under the assumption that he means what he says. And more specifically, if it is just a threat related to NAFTA, it's coming pretty early, right? We are still a year and a half away from even the resumption of any kind of review or opening of the agreement, reopening of the agreement, as Donald Trump has signaled he wants to do. I'm sure everything is about positioning relative to that. But right now, the immediate threat is the application of this tariff. If I remember correctly, even when we thought it could be just a 10% tariff, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce's analysis showed a $30 billion hit to our economy.
Wow.
If you extrapolate that and expand, I mean, this is like a potentially crippling thing that will forever change the dynamic between the United States and Canada as far as our economic and trade relationship goes, if it goes ahead. So I'll be looking to see what's, like you said, what specifics does he mean at the border? What exactly is he looking at from the federal government? I am anticipating a comment tonight from Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who oversees the border. So that should tell us something about where the Canadian government is headed as well.
All right, we leave it at that for the moment. CTV's chief political correspondent Vashi Kapila.
These people are nuts. These people are nuts. Like, not just CTV, but I just mean these people in general that are like, no, there's no way Donald Trump can do something like that. He's got to go through a process. He's got to get it approved. He's got to do all these things. There's no way. Dude, that's not how the real world works. That's not how the real world works. You know those places that are like, hey, appointment only? You know what? I got a secret. Whether it's a doctor's office, whether it's a whatever, right? The places, you know what I'm talking about, outside of their storefront that say by appointment only. Okay, I'm painting a picture here. Imagine you show up there. These people are like, well, it's appointment only. I guess I got to call in advance and book an email and wait 6 months and do all that stuff. Or you could just knock until somebody answers and say, hey, I have a quick question. I'm not going to wait 6 months. Here it is. And then you get an answer. Not by appointment only, right? These people are delusional. They think that there's only one way to get shit done. Welcome to reality. When you have a strong leader, when you have somebody, whether it's Trump in this instance, or, I mean, hopefully Canada can also have strong leadership. I'd like to think that Pierre Poilievre is the guy for that. Would Pierre be a good match against Trump? He certainly won't be worse than Justin Trudeau. I'll put it at that, right? I'm going to leave it there. But I think that we are really screwed. We are really screwed if Trudeau actually starts negotiations with Trump. Really screwed. Don't take my word on it. Take Justin Trudeau's word on it. Let's take a look at what them has to say.
Bonjour tout le monde. I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do. One of the really important things is that we be all pulling together on this. The Team Canada approach is what works. That's where, putting aside partisanship, that's where I reached out immediately to Doug Ford to agree with him that we would have a First Ministers meeting this week to talk about the United States. Talked with François Legault and some other premiers as well. There's work to do, but we know how to do it. J'ai eu un bon appel.
You don't know how to do it. You don't know how to do it. You know how easy it is for Trump to put in these tariffs? He signs an executive order, and that's it. He signs a piece of paper, and then Canada is imposed with 25% tariffs. Yeah, it's going to cause harm to the American economy a little bit, but that's something he's willing to do to prove a point. Call the bluff, see what happens. Any strong leader is able to pull that off. Justin Trudeau is not a strong leader. He is actually likely going to try and call Donald Trump's bluff. Well, hold on. We need a little bit more time. You think Trump is going to turn around and say, okay, Justin, you can have more time. It's okay, sweetie. Just tap him on the head. It's okay. We like Canada. We love Canada. We have a great relationship with Canada. We'll give you more time. You think Trump is going to do that, or he's going to say, you know what? Mexico gets 25% tariffs. You get 31% because fuck you, buddy. That's exactly how that's going to play out. My goodness. We need an election ASAP. Like, seriously, we need an election right now. Yesterday, tomorrow, today, right now. Here's what Pierre Poilievre has to say about the entire situation.
Responsible for $1.2 trillion of our trade. We trade almost twice as much with the Americans as we trade with the rest of the world combined. Trade with the U.S. is 40% of our economy. President Trump yesterday made an unjustified threat of a 25% tariff on our already weak and shrinking economy. Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were surprised, amazingly. Everyone else knew something like this could be coming because President Trump had been talking about it for years on the campaign trail. Yet 20 days ago, Chrystia Freeland said, "Don't worry, Canada will be fine." Apparently, neither she nor Justin Trudeau were following what the incoming president was saying. And now we must take account and we must be honest with our unprecedented weakness. After 9 years of Prime Minister Trudeau, our GDP is smaller than it was when he took off, per capita is smaller than it was when he took office. In fact, our per capita GDP has dropped more than any other G7 country since the year before COVID. We have the most indebted households. We've had the worst housing inflation. A quarter of our people are in poverty. 2 million people line up in food banks. Food prices have risen 37% faster in Canada than in the United States of America. Our economy is teetering on the brink of collapse. And now we face this renewed threat. We need a plan to put Canada first on the economy and on security. So, to start with, on the economy, I'm calling on Prime Minister Trudeau to put partisanship aside and in the spirit of Team Canada to accept that he cannot go ahead with quadrupling the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. This was an irresponsible policy to begin with, but combining this kind of crippling energy tax increase with potential tariffs from Donald Trump would push our economy into a nightmare and a tailspin. So let's put partisanship aside and axe the tax. Second, the Prime Minister has to put aside partisanship and, in the spirit of Team Canada, cancel his energy cap, which would see Alberta and Saskatchewan produce 35% less energy at a time when we need those jobs. It is our biggest industry and our biggest export. The incoming American president says he wants to cut gas prices in half. Well, the only way to do it will be to import more clean Canadian energy. So the Prime Minister has to stop this assault on our biggest industry. Next, he has to cancel all tax increases on work, investment, and making stuff in Canada. Finally, he needs to renew and restart the commitment to end the softwood lumber tariffs and the Buy America policies, just like Stephen Harper was successful in doing, even though Justin Trudeau has not been able to do that under 3 presidents and 9 years. On security, about a week ago, Justin Trudeau admitted that he broke our immigration system, and that brings new challenges. His own published documents show there are 4.9 million people here temporarily that are supposed to leave by December 31st of next year, 13 months from now. 4.9 million people. We asked what the plan was to track their departures, and yesterday his immigration minister said, "We're just going to take people at their word."
No way.
Been 2 ISIS.
Did that really happen? No way. Like, I have a hard time. My brain is like reprogramming. I'm short wired every day. I'm like, no, that didn't happen. No, that can't be true. Look, I'm a product of de-establishment. I'm a product of the government, right? I grew up in, just like a lot of people, in kind of a left-leaning, more liberal household. Now, liberal 20 years ago, 30 years ago does not mean liberal now, right? But still liberal. Joined the military. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. All that stuff, right? And that was my early adulthood, right? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. To everything, right? Don't question stuff. You're just told what to do. It's a simple life. It's great. You're going to get to travel and see the world. Awesome. I don't have to think about what I wear. I just go and I do my job. I'm told what to do. And then as I, expand my career, there's a little bit of things I think about. And then, and then it's like, okay, that's not what I want to do anymore. So I got short wired. And now I'm here and I'm like, man, there's no way. There's no way Canada is this mental. Still, 428,000 subscribers on MSB talking shit about Trudeau. And I still question, is this how ridiculous Canada is? 120 some subscribers on House of Canada. And I'm still sitting here questioning after making a lot of videos talking about this stuff, watching all the news, after seeing everything that's happened. I still think maybe there's a chance that they're not this far gone. There's no way that Trudeau and the Liberals are this insane. I question myself more than I should. For those that didn't know, maybe that's new information to you. Maybe that's relatable information to you. But I question myself because I think that there's no fucking way in hell that this is how stupid these people are. Yet here we are, get proven wrong every single time. This is how stupid they are. We're just going to take people at their word for leaving the country who are supposed to be deported. Yeah, come on, give me a break. Give me a freaking break. No wonder Canada's a pile of crap right now. Come on, man.
Terrorists allowed into our country. What is the plan to protect our security and reinstate sovereignty over who is in our country? Military. Justin Trudeau has demolished our military with poor decisions, botched procurements, and wasted money. One thing he could do today is announce that his planned billion-dollar cut to the military is cancelled, and then present a real plan to reallocate money away from lower priorities towards rebuilding our military and reinforcing our military security over North America. And finally, on drugs. I don't want to stop drug overdoses to please Donald Trump.
Nope.
I want to stop drug overdoses so that there's not one more mother with her face buried in a pillow sobbing that she just lost her kid. After 47,000 other Canadians have died. That's more than we lost in the Second World War. A 200% annual increase in drug overdose deaths have resulted from Justin Trudeau's radical liberalization of drugs. Justin Trudeau must put partisanship aside, not just for the sake of Team Canada, but for the sake of our people, and fully reverse his liberalization of drugs. Ban them, prosecute those who traffic in them, secure our borders against the illegal importation of fentanyl ingredients, put people in treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. That is necessary now more than ever. Look, President Trump has the right to put his workers and his nation's security first.
So does Canada.
I will put Canada's workers and Canada's security first. We need a Prime Minister with the strength and the smarts, the brains and the backbone to stand up for this country, to rebuild our security, our military, and our economy. That is what I will do. Let's bring it home.
Should Canada have less reliance on American trade, in your view?
That's a nice idea. It's a very nice idea. We live next door to the biggest economic and military superpower in the history of the world.
And we don't rely on them. Get a grip, reporter.
About other trade partners, but I'm interested in reality. We've been fantasizing for the last 9 years, and look where it has got us. What we actually need to do is stand up for our economy by axing taxes, unleashing free enterprise, having a massive boom in our energy and resource production, and standing up for our country against unfair tariffs abroad.
Aside from all the measures that we laid out, would you be willing to retaliate?
If necessary. Si nécessaire.
You're asking the Prime Minister to put aside his partisanship. Will you put aside yours and join the government in a Team Canada approach?
I'm making nonpartisan suggestions today. But let me be clear. What we don't need is a spectacle of a bunch of politicians sitting around tables, meeting, and holding photo ops. I know that would be a wonderful spectacle for all of you. You would all enjoy that kind of interpersonal theatrics. But what we really need is an action plan with tangibles. So, bottom line, Trudeau's got to axe the carbon tax. He's got to lift the production cap on Canadian energy. He's got to rebuild our military and secure our borders. That is a real plan to protect our economy and our security and put Canada first, and that's more important than photo ops and meetings between politicians.
What do you think about the idea of Canada striking a separate bilateral agreement with the U.S., separate from Mexico? Do you endorse that idea?
Canada first. Let's put it this way. One, I only care about Canada.
Two, I love this guy more than I ever did for what he just said in the past 10 seconds. Canada first. And then what did he say? One, I love Canada first. That's it. That's it. You got my vote right there, buddy. You got my vote. That's it. That is phenomenal. I've never heard Justin Trudeau say any of that shit. Canada first? Are you kidding me? Take my vote. Take my money. Take everything. Let's go. You want to lead this country and you actually not only say, but you believe Canada first? In you we shall trust. How about that? Plain and simple. Simple. I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple voter. The simplest. Canada first? Take it. Take my vote. Take the platform too. I'll be pro Pierre even more than I ever have. I'll be pro Pierre Poilievre more than I ever have if he keeps saying stuff like that. Canada first, you got it, buddy. You got it. I understand. I understand the mission.
I want to put our country first. Two, America is responsible for over 60% of our trade. We trade more with the U.S. than we do with the rest of the world combined. I will do what is necessary to preserve and protect that relationship above all others.
$250 checks. Has your party decided if you support them? And can you also respond to the demands from the Bloc and NDP to expand it even further?
So, first of all, we will make our final decision and formalize it tomorrow at our caucus meeting, as always. But with our GDP collapsing, with $500 billion pouring out of our country, and with Canadians lined up at food banks, our priority is not to save you 10 cents on a bag of potato chips right before quadrupling the carbon tax on your heat, housing, gas, and groceries. What we need is a real common sense plan to slash bureaucracy and waste in order to bring down taxes, inflation, and interest rates. And we will answer. We also know that on the checks, Justin Trudeau has said, when he was asked about checks not long ago, he said, if you give out checks, you drive up inflation by exactly the same amount. If you have an economy with 10 apples and $10, it's $1 an apple. If you double the number of dollars in the economy to 20 and you still only have 10 apples, well, now it's $2 an apple. You're not actually increasing purchasing power by printing money, borrowing cash, and sending out checks. What that has done after 9 years of Trudeau has given us the worst inflation in 40 years, the worst housing price inflation in the G7. We have people living in poverty. They can't find homes. We need a real common sense plan to permanently axe the carbon tax, axe the sales tax on new homes so that Canadians can earn a powerful paycheck that buys affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods.
Oral questions.
Oral questions. Questions orales. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, next Minister Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Plan for economy and security that puts Canada first. But despite the fact the Prime Minister has known for years that Trump was threatening these tariffs, and for 3 weeks that President Trump had won the election, the only plan he has is a Zoom call. No plan to reverse his disastrous liberalization of drugs that have killed people and now threaten our borders. No plan to fix the broken borders that he caused. No plan to cancel the tax increases that will drive billions and many jobs away. Where's the plan to put Canada first?
There you go. I love that. Canada first.
Instead of panicking and falling back on slogans like the Leader of the Opposition, we rolled up our sleeves and we're getting to work. We're working with all the premiers, pulling together in a Team Canada approach, because that's how we defend Canadian jobs from coast to coast to coast. I spoke with Donald Trump yesterday evening, talked about how important it was for us to work together to solve some of the challenges we're facing as a continent, as countries, but also work to grow our economy.
Dude, he's wearing the bracelet from Taylor Swift concert.
The border. This is the responsible, methodical approach we're taking as we move forward,
right here,
while our opponent falls back on slogans and fear.
Our Prime Minister is wearing a Taylor Swift friendship bracelet.
He spoke with the incoming president, and moments later, Mr. Trump put out a tweet slapping a 25% tariff on Canada. So that worked about as well as the Prime Minister's efforts on Buy America and softwood lumber, which continue to be penalized, even though the previous Conservative government got both of those things lifted. Now move over to drugs. The Prime Minister's disastrous legalization and liberalization of drugs has the Americans worried, in addition to costing 47,000 deaths in Canada. Where's the plan to stop the drugs and keep our border open to trade?
The right honourable.
Well said, Pierre.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Leader of the Opposition is just making stuff up. I clearly spoke with the President of the United States an hour and a half after he put out his suggestion on tariffs. The reality is we're going to continue to work constructively with the incoming administration to protect Canadian jobs, to protect Canadian growth, to take the responsible approach that isn't steeped in partisanship, that pulls together the Team Canada approach that stands up for Canadians instead of throwing our arms up and saying all is broken like the Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, that's even worse. The statement went out promising tariffs before they even got a chance to speak. It's kind of like him backing down on Buy America and backing down on softwood lumber, Mr. Speaker. Now let's move to the tariffs the Prime Minister wants to impose on our economy. Quadrupling the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre would cripple our economy. New tax increases on work and energy would do likewise, sending hundreds of billions of dollars south of the border. Now that Canadians are facing this economic crisis, will he at least cancel his plan to hike taxes so we can save jobs?
Throw some W's in the chat, eh?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we see once again the Leader of the Opposition flailing and inventing stuff to try and fit his preferred attacks into his priorities. The reality is we're going to continue to work constructively with the incoming administration to do what Canada and the U.S. have always done, create prosperity together, protect jobs on both sides of the border as we grow the economy. When it comes to drugs, Mr. Speaker, we've taken serious steps on that and will continue to. But if the Leader of the Opposition is suggesting he wants to recriminalize marijuana, let him just say that.
That's right.
What? No one's suggesting that.
Order!
Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. He wants to mute the microphone.
You're asking your caucus to that's right? Order.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are fully caught up to speed on what has happened today. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. This is the end of the video, so if you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys one last time to smash the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.